What if you lost your name? Everyone remembered you but didn't know what to do with you. It's about why people can remember you yet still hesitate around you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why being remembered isn't the same as being placed, and why that difference quietly shapes confidence, relationships, and opportunity. Your face is familiar. No one looks confused when they see you. Your voice doesn't surprise anyone either. When you speak, people recognize it instantly. There's no shock, no "who is this?" no moment of confusion. So logically, nothing should feel wrong. And yet something does. Not loudly, not obviously, just enough to notice. You can't point to it, you can't explain it, but your body feels it before your mind does. People know you, they remember you, they acknowledge you, so why doesn't that settle things? How can you be known and still feel slightly out of place? Not rejected, no one is pushing you away. Not ignored, you're still included, still seen, just off. Like you're present, but not fully grounded. Like you're standing in the room, yet unsure where you're supposed to stand. And that quiet uncertainty is what makes this feeling so unsettling. At first, life continues. Nothing dramatic happens, nothing breaks. A friend smiles when they see you, comfortable, familiar. I grew up with him. It's said casually, naturally, like it doesn't need explanation. A colleague nods in agreement. We've worked together. Again, no hesitation, no doubt, just facts, shared history. See, proof. You're remembered, you're acknowledged. Your past is intact. People know where you come from. They can point to moments, they can name experiences. So on the surface, everything checks out. You exist. There's evidence. There's confirmation. Nothing is missing. At least, nothing obvious. When someone says, "He's my brother," or "He's my close friend," there's no pause. The sentence flows. The tone stays steady because the role is clear. Everyone listening immediately understands how this person fits, how close they are, how to behave around them. There's nothing to figure out. But watch what happens when the role isn't so clear. When someone tries to introduce you socially, they usually begin with confidence. Their voice is steady, their body language is relaxed. This is, and then they slow down. Not silence, not confusion, just a slight delay. Not because they forgot you, not because they don't recognize you. They remember you perfectly. They're just searching for something else. They don't know what to call you. So they switch direction. "This is someone I know from before. We've worked together. I've known him for a long time." These sentences aren't wrong, they're true. But notice what changed. They stopped placing you and started describing you. That pause, that small shift, is the delay. And that delay matters. Because in that moment, the listener doesn't learn who you are. They learn something subtler. They learn that your place isn't clear yet. And that's why a short pause can feel heavier than a long sentence. It quietly signals something to the room. Not rejection, not distance, just this. This person is known, but undefined. Why does a 1-second pause feel heavier than an entire sentence? Why does your chest tighten before your mind can explain anything? Nothing bad was said. Nothing obvious happened. And yet your body reacts. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. A slight tension, a shallow breath, a subtle alertness. You don't decide to feel this, it happens on its own. That's because your mind isn't first, your nervous system is. It's always scanning for signals, tone, timing, hesitation, certainty. And in that pause, it detected uncertainty. Not danger, not rejection, just instability. So before your thoughts catch up, before you form an explanation, your body already knows. Something isn't settled yet. Your nervous system noticed something first. They didn't forget you. That part matters. Your face is still familiar. Your voice still registers. Your presence doesn't confuse anyone. This isn't about memory failing. Nothing has been erased. The past is still there. Shared moments still exist. Recognition still works. Memory is intact, and that's what makes this unsettling.
Because if memory isn't the problem, if people still know you, still recognize you, then what is? What's causing the hesitation? What's creating that subtle distance you can't point to but can clearly feel? If it's not forgetting, then something else must be missing. And that's the question your body is already asking before your mind finds the words. Psychology separates two ideas we usually mix together without realizing it. Two processes that feel similar but do very different jobs: recognition and social placement. Recognition is simple. It's the moment your brain says, "I know this person. Their face is familiar. Their voice rings a bell." There's no confusion. Your memory responds automatically. "I've seen them before. I've interacted with them. I recognize this human." That process is handled by what psychologists call recognition memory. It's the system that stores faces, voices, names, and past interactions. It answers only one question: do I know this person? But social placement is something else entirely. It comes after recognition, and it's handled by a different process called social categorization. Social categorization is your brain's way of quickly deciding, who is this person to me? What role do they play here? How should I behave around them right now? This happens fast, often without words, mostly without awareness. And this is where things start to wobble. Because you can recognize someone perfectly, feel familiarity, warmth, connection, and still hesitate. Not because you forgot them, not because you're unsure who they are, but because your brain hasn't placed them yet in this specific situation. Until placement is clear, your behavior stays cautious. Your tone softens, your body holds back, your nervous system waits. That's why recognition feels warm. It brings familiarity, it brings comfort, but placement feels stabilizing. It tells your brain, "I know how to act now." Recognition says, "I know you." Social categorization says, "I know where you fit." So you didn't forget him. Nothing disappeared from memory. You just didn't yet know how to relate to him in this context. And when that second process, placement, slows down or fails, tension begins. Not loud tension, quiet tension, the kind you feel before you understand. They sound similar, recognition and placement, but psychologically they aren't the same thing at all. Imagine you're in a hospital. The air feels different, quieter, heavier. Your body automatically shifts into a slower mode. Then you see someone. Your brain reacts instantly. "I know him." There's no effort in that thought. It just appears. Memories surface on their own. School corridors, shared jokes, old friendships. Recognition happens in a second. It's warm, familiar, almost comforting. Recognition is done. But then you slow down. Your steps hesitate. Your voice doesn't come out immediately. Not because you forgot who he is, not because your memory failed, not because you're confused about the past. You know exactly who he is. But something else hasn't clicked yet. Something your brain is still waiting for. And until it does, your body stays careful. Because in this place, recognition alone isn't enough. Something is missing. Your brain asks a second question. Not out loud, not consciously. It happens underneath the thought, "I know him." The question is simple. What is he here as? A patient? A visitor? A doctor? Each answer carries a different rule, a different tone, a different way of approaching. And until that answer is clear, your body stays careful. You don't rush forward. You don't speak immediately. Your tone softens. Your steps slow. Your movements become smaller. You wait, not because you're unsure about him, but because you're unsure about how to be here with him. Then he says one sentence, "I'm here for a checkup." And instantly, something shifts. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your posture loosens. Your breath deepens. Your voice changes without you planning it. Nothing about him changed. He's the same person, same face, same history. The only thing that changed was your brain finally understanding where to place him in this moment. And once placement clicked, your body knew what to do. That's what a name really does. It's not just a sound people use to get your attention. It's not just a label. A name is a shortcut. When someone hears your name, their brain doesn't start searching. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't scan for context. It loads all at once. Your history, what you've done before, how you usually show up, your role, what you're known for, where you tend to fit, your relevance, why you matter in certain moments, when to involve you. All of that comes online instantly. So instead of guessing, the brain feels settled. It knows, I know who he is here. And that's why names feel stabilizing. They remove uncertainty. They reduce hesitation. They tell the nervous system, you can relax. This is clear. Without that shortcut, people don't forget you. They still recognize you. They still remember shared moments, but they hesitate. They pause before acting. They wait before engaging because they're looking for one thing, something that tells them how to relate to you in this moment. Until they find it, everything stays careful. Not distant, not cold, just undecided. And that hesitation is where presence quietly weakens. You start noticing yourself change, not all at once, in small ways. You explain a little more than you used to. You add context before anyone asks. You fill gaps that don't really need filling. You hear yourself talking and something feels different. You're not nervous. You're not trying to impress. You're just trying to make sure nothing is misunderstood. And then a quiet thought appears, not loudly, almost as a whisper. Why am I working this hard just to be understood?
Is this insecurity? That's the first explanation that comes to mind, the easiest one to accept. You wonder if you're overthinking, if you're imagining things, if this is just you being too sensitive. But then another question follows. What if it's not insecurity? What if nothing is wrong with you at all? What if something else is breaking quietly, slowly, without drama? Something you don't consciously control, something you feel before you can name, something deeper, not personal, not emotional in the usual sense, something social, something happening between you and the world in the space where meaning is decided before words are spoken. The brain avoids effort, not because it's emotional, not because it's lazy, but because it's mechanical. It's built to conserve energy, to choose the path that requires the least work. Psychologists call this cognitive load, the amount of mental effort the brain has to use to process what's happening. Your brain is constantly managing this load, even when you're not aware of it. It prefers things that are clear, easy to categorize, quick to understand. Anything that takes extra effort creates friction. So the question isn't what is cognitive load, the real question is what does that have to do with you? The brain avoids effort, not because it's lazy, not because it doesn't care, because it's limited. Your brain can only handle so much information at one time, and your brain is always managing that load, quietly, automatically. It's constantly asking, how can I make this easier? So it prefers things that feel simple, things that are familiar, things that are quick to understand, things that are easy to categorize, not because they're better, but because they cost less energy. This is why names, roles, and labels matter so much. They lower cognitive load. They let the brain decide instantly, without effort. Oh, friend. Oh, colleague. Oh, leader. No thinking required, no explanation needed. The brain relaxes because the work is already done. But when someone can't place you, everything changes. Now, the brain has to work harder. It has to recall context. It has to explain history. It has to decide how to relate to you here. All of that takes energy, and that extra effort creates friction. Not emotional friction, cognitive friction. And the brain's automatic response to friction isn't rejection. It doesn't push away. It doesn't judge. It avoids. It delays. It moves on to something easier. So when people hesitate around you, it's not because they don't like you. It's not personal. It's cognitive. Their brain is conserving effort. So you're not rejected. No one pushed you away. No one said no. You're not disliked either. There's no anger, no judgment. People still smile, still recognize you, still feel familiar around you. And yet, you're skipped. You're not the first person thought of, not the name that comes up naturally, not the one included without effort.
It's quiet, almost invisible, but it lands. Because being skipped doesn't give you anything to argue with. There's no moment to defend yourself, no clear reason to point to, and that's why it hurts more than being judged. Judgment at least acknowledges you, rejection at least sees you, but being skipped? It makes you feel like you were almost relevant, but not quite enough to slow the moment down. You tell yourself, my worth comes from within. It's something you've heard before, something you believe. It sounds solid, grounded, strong, and it should stabilize you, but it doesn't, not fully. Because even as you repeat it, your body still reacts. You still feel the hesitation. You still notice the silence. You still sense the shift in how others respond. And part of you wonders why an idea that makes so much sense doesn't quiet what you're feeling. Humans don't regulate self-worth alone. We never have. Psychologists call this co-regulation. Co-regulation means your nervous system is constantly taking cues from other people to decide one basic thing. Am I safe here? Am I valued here? Do I belong here? This happens long before conscious thought. Your confidence isn't created in isolation. It's not something you generate once and carry untouched through life. It's constantly being adjusted, moment by moment, based on social feedback. When interactions are smooth, when people respond easily, place you clearly, acknowledge you without hesitation, your nervous system settles, your breathing slows, your body relaxes. Without words, it interprets the situation as, I belong here. But when responses hesitate, when there are pauses, unclear roles, uncertain reactions, something shifts. Your nervous system detects instability, not consciously, not logically, physically. Psychologists call this a threat response, not the kind that feels like panic, not fear, something quieter. Your body tightens slightly. Your voice changes just a bit. You become more aware of how you're coming across. Nothing dramatic happens, and that's the problem. Because confidence doesn't collapse all at once. It doesn't shatter. It leaks, slowly, through over-explaining, through second-guessing, through a tension you can't logically justify. This is the quiet damage.
So what is a name, really? Just a word? Or something doing invisible work you never noticed? A name isn't a label. It's not just what people call you to get your attention. It's a handle, something others can grab onto when you're not there. It lets them refer to you easily, talk about you clearly, bring you into conversations without effort. When your name is solid, people can carry you forward, into rooms you're not in, into decisions you're not part of yet, into moments that happen without you. Without that handle, they don't drop you on purpose, they just don't know how to carry you. So they pause, they hesitate, they move on. When the handle disappears, you're still remembered. People recognize your face, they recall moments you shared. They don't forget you existed. Nothing is erased, but something important stops working. People can't move you forward anymore. They don't bring you into conversations when you're not in the room. They don't mention your name when decisions are being made. They don't think of you when opportunities appear. Not because you don't deserve it, not because you did something wrong. They simply don't know how to carry you into those moments. So you remain where you are, present but not progressing, remembered but not advancing. And that's how someone can still be known yet quietly stop moving through life's rooms. So what happens to someone who exists but doesn't move? They get stuck, quietly. This is why transitions hurt, not because something bad happened, but because something familiar disappeared. Graduation, job loss, breakups, moving cities. On the outside, these look like changes in circumstance, but inside they feel deeper, because when a transition happens, the roles that once placed you disappear. You're no longer the student, no longer the colleague, no longer someone's partner, no longer the familiar face in this place. And suddenly, people hesitate around you. Not because they don't care, not because they forgot you. They still remember your voice, your personality, your history, but they don't know where you fit now. The old placement no longer applies. The new one hasn't formed yet. So interactions slow, invitations change, conversations feel uncertain. You're still you, but the world hasn't caught up to who you are becoming. And that in-between space where identity hasn't settled yet is why transitions hurt the most.
That feeling isn't loneliness. It's not failure. It's identity instability. Not losing who you are, but losing where you stand. This is why people chase titles, followers, recognition, positions that sound solid when spoken out loud. Not always for ego, not just for validation, but for continuity. Titles give people a way to exist even when they're not in the room. They give others something stable to point to, something easy to remember, something that travels. Without that, presence becomes fragile. And if you've ever felt anxious about being nothing without a role, if you've ever wondered who you are once a title disappears, now you know why. It's not because you lack substance, it's because humans are wired to orient around clarity. So what's the lesson? Not to tie your worth to labels. Your value isn't a title, it isn't a number, it isn't a role someone gives you. But also, don't ignore how humans actually work. Depth matters, character matters, inner strength matters, but clarity matters too. If people can't quickly understand what you stand for, they can't carry you forward. So build depth, yes, but also build clarity. Stand for something that fits into a sentence. Because identity isn't just who you are in private, it's how easily others can hold you in their minds when you're not there. One day, titles will fall. The ones you worked for, the ones you relied on, the ones that once explained who you were. Names may change, roles will end. What once placed you will no longer apply. And when that happens, something important is revealed. Because what remains is not how well people described you, not how many words they used, not how detailed the story was. What remains is how clearly you were defined. What people understood about you without effort. What stayed consistent when the labels disappeared. That clarity, not the title, is what lasts. You don't disappear when your name is gone. People still remember you. They still recognize your face. They still know your past. Nothing vanishes overnight. But you disappear when people don't know where to put you, when they hesitate to mention you, when they're unsure how to introduce you, when they don't know how you fit into the moment in front of them. You're still there, but you stop being carried forward. Not out of cruelty, not out of forgetting, out of uncertainty. And that loss doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue. It doesn't leave evidence. It just happens quietly. So quietly that by the time you notice it, it's already changed how you move through the world.